presentation is over smallpox and the multiple vaccines that are for smallpox. A little bit of information and history behind the disease is smallpox is an infectious disease caused by the variola virus. Approximately 3 out of 10 people died who were infected, so it has an estimated mortality rate of about 33%. It is transmitted by respiratory droplets, mainly in close contact with other people. Incubation period is anywhere from 7 to 19 days, with an average of about 10 to 14 days. The history behind smallpox is actually pretty interesting. It dates all the way back to the 3rd century BC, so it's been around for a long time. But the last outbreak in the United States was back in 1949, and in the United States it was eradicated in 1952. Lastly, it was eradicated in Africa in 1977. Some general signs and symptoms of smallpox. Your initial symptoms will be high fever, head and body aches, and rare but occasional vomiting. These initial symptoms usually can last 2 to 4 days. Then the rash will begin as small red spots in the mouth and on the tongue. These spots break open and can release large amounts of the virus, and your fever will continue. The rash then spreads to the rest of the body, typically within 24 hours. And as this rash spreads, the fever will start to break. This typically lasts about 4 days, and by the end of the 4th day, those small red bumps begin to fill with fluid. The bumps become pustulous, and scabs typically form about 5 days after that. The scabs will eventually begin to fall off, and they will leave marks in the skin, and that last process typically takes about 6 days. And the scabs can usually leave some pretty bad marks on your skin. A little history behind the vaccine for smallpox. The vaccination process for smallpox actually began way back in 1796. A scientist named Edward Jenner took cowpox and inoculated it into a human's arm, and then exposed that person to the variola virus that causes smallpox. And that person did not become infected with smallpox. So I know it worked. The Dryvax vaccine was initially approved by the FDA in 1931, but routine vaccination stopped in 1972. It was considered officially eradicated by the WHO in 1980 worldwide. In more recent changes, ACAM 2000 was licensed by the FDA in 2007 and replaced the Dryvax vaccine that was approved in 1931. There are 3 main vaccination types. ACAM 2000 is a replication-competent vaccine. It contains live vaccinovirus, not the variola virus, so it will not cause smallpox. It's typically given percutaneously through a single dose using a multiple puncture technique. The second type of vaccine in the national stockpile is the Adventist Pasteur smallpox vaccine. It is also a replication-competent vaccine, same as the ACAM 2000, but it is not licensed in the U.S., so it is for backup emergencies. Jynneos is a replication-deficient attenuated live virus vaccine. It is given subcutaneously in 2 doses. The initial dose at week 0 and again at week 4. So who gets the vaccine? ACAM 2000 is recommended for people who handle cultures, replication-competent vaccinovirus, or handle any other kind of orthopox viruses that can affect humans. APSV is recommended for people who cannot receive the ACAM 2000 virus due to certain contraindications. Jynneos is recommended for people who are first 18 and older and have certain immune deficiencies. But today, nobody should receive vaccination outside of these situations, unless directly exposed in some sort of outbreak. Here's a picture of the administration site after a vaccination. So the smallpox vaccination is actually given through a bifurcated needle. It contains a small droplet of the vaccine solution. It is used to prick the upper arm a few times to administer the vaccine. So here's a picture at day 4, 7, 14, and 21 of the vaccination site. The vaccine schedule and booster. ACAM 2000 is given once initially, but booster doses are available and recommended every 3 years, mainly recommended for people who, similar to healthcare professionals who administer ACAM 2000 or other healthcare professionals treating infected patients with smallpox. Jynneos is given to people 18 years and older, like I mentioned, and is given in 2 doses, 0 weeks and 4 weeks. People who have never been vaccinated only receive the first initial dose, and they don't get the follow-up dose at week 4. Some general side effects and concerns. With ACAM 2000, you could experience rash, fever, head and body aches. They can become severe for people who are immunocompromised. APSV is similar to ACAM 2000 in its side effects and concerns. Jynneos, there are no known adverse side effects. It is mainly studied in people with HIV and atopic dermatitis. The manufacturers of the vaccine and the availability of them. ACAM 2000 is made by the Emergent Product Development Gaithersburg Incorporation. It is available in the U.S. Strategic National Stockpile. Jynneos is made by Bavarian Nordic AS, and it is also available in the U.S. National Strategic Stockpile. And the APSV, it is made by Sanofi Pasteur. It is also available in the Strategic National Stockpile, but it is still investigational, and like I said, it is not licensed in the U.S. But there is enough in the National Stockpile that everybody can receive the vaccination in source of an outbreak. Some other information that I found pretty interesting about the research that I did. Smallpox is rarely spread through indoors through like a central heat and air system, so it's not very likely to go airborne in a system like that. There's no scientific evidence shown that it spreads through insects or animals. Something else that I found interesting, especially compared to the COVID crisis that we're going through right now, is the situation in Asia. A woman by the name of Rahima Banu, she was the last person in Asia to naturally acquire smallpox. And her isolation process was pretty severe. She was isolated at home with guards 24/7 until non-infectious. And every household and public meeting area within 5 miles was investigated. So it was pretty strenuous, and she was on lockdown for several weeks. And not only was she on lockdown, but she was completely guarded, and the whole town and everything was completely searched through. We're excited.